Hello, friend. Welcome to Grandpa's Horror Stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your own stories. Embark on a journey of the eerie and unknown. Original Reddit authors always credited. See below. My crush asked to meet me alone after school, but I'm 99% sure this isn't how the first time is supposed to be. Everyone had that person in high school. It's the age where hormones and emotions are officially firing on every cylinder, but the raw newness of it still turns the most innocuous moments into emotional roller coasters. She laughed and actually touched your hand. Try to hold back the vomit. Did you see her kissing another guy, crawling into a hole and dying? Sounds like a fantastic idea. Parents and teachers warned of the dangers that illicit drugs pose, but marijuana has nothing on the pains of addiction that come with teenage infatuation. 4. Plenty of the guys at my high school. Christine Wilson held the most magic. She was a walking stereotype. Blonde cheerleader, looked like she's been crafted from Roman marble and dream clouds made of candy. And on top of that, she was the single nicest person any of us had ever met. Not for me, though. No, the person who made my stomach flip was Pennywinkle. Damn, even now, the name sends my emotions into a discombobulated overdrive. I was lucky enough that no one knew how I felt, and I therefore could not be harassed or betrayed by my asshole friends. I suppose that Penny would have been one of the goth kids if there were a big enough group of them, but most of the time I saw her, she was alone. She wasn't the typical crush. Straight, jet black hair set against pale, creamy skin, dark, intense clothing with platform boots, an intense countenance that rarely betrayed emotion. Penny was a tiny girl that pulled me into her orbit without ever knowing it. Or so I thought. We'd only really interacted once, in the 8th grade, for one afternoon in Mrs. McIntyre's 5th period class. We were randomly paired up to do a presentation on current events. Our shoulders rubbed against each other, a Reading Time magazine, and I saw God. After that, we didn't talk for 4 years. Then one September 13th rolled around, and everything changed. I saw her walking toward me, just like she did between every 3rd and 4th period, while marking the highlight of my day. That's when she grabbed my arm and pulled me behind the bushes where the stoners thought no one could see them. For the moment, however, we were alone. I need you, James. The look in her dark brown eyes was pleading. I realized that it was the first time we'd actually made eye contact since that glorious B- current events presentation. I tried to talk, but I couldn't make the words go. It's about my boyfriend, you know, Brent. Hey, there's that vomit tickling my uvula. Brent Harwood was a dodgy football player who'd already graduated, but clearly still liked hanging around high school girls. Rumor had it that he was doing very well on his college football team. Penny drew in a rattling breath. He's dangerous, James, and very strong. I don't know what to do. The police can't do anything until after a crime is committed. And my parents. She flashed a helpless look. I'm desperate. I know it's dangerous, but will you help me? I was floating on cloud 9 until school let out for the day. Saying goodbye to my asshole friends, I turned away from the road that led to my house and took the dirt path down toward the river. The river was a magical place. The stoners didn't have to hide there. Even after the brush fire they started eradicated their leafy fortress. Everyone needs a place of their own, especially those who have been forgotten by everyone else. Penny was talking to a squirrel when I found her there. She turned away when she saw me, as though I'd caught her doing something inappropriate. I'd spent all day thinking of this moment, and how I could sweep in appearing infinitely more attractive than Brent. Oh hey, hi. She stared at me. Then her face broke. I'm desperate, James. Shaking, I knelt down next to her, leaving a reverent few inches between us. Can I trust you? She asked, squeezing my elbow. Seeing as how I would have agreed to defecating on my grandmother's Oldsmobile after her touch, I eagerly nodded. She bit her lip before lifting the hem of her dark miniskirt. As my pulse thundered, I wondered if it was possible to have a heart attack at 17. Then Penny hooked her thumb under the top of her fishnets and slowly pulled down the left one, exposing her thigh. Staring at me with wide, brown eyes, she extended a knife. To be fair, it was my first time, but I was pretty damn sure that knives didn't play a role in the process, and I had done an extensive amount of online research on the subject by that point in my life. Put it in, she whispered, her voice pleading. HMMM. She grabbed my wrist with her other hand and forced it onto the knife's handle. I felt lightheaded as an energy buzzed up my wrist, but it wasn't caused by the girl. It came from the knife. Penny. This isn't right, I gasped. Just slide it into my thigh. Not too deep, but enough so that I feel it. My hands trembled as excitement quickly replaced itself with genuine fear. I shook my head. I can't. This doesn't make any. If you stab me, I'll kiss you, but I'll tell everyone that you attacked me with your creepy knife if you back out now. The fear now became absolute. Do you know why 17-year-old boys do the things they do? Well, guess what? Neither do 17-year-old boys. Her muffled scream brought me back to my senses. Looking down in horror, I saw that the blade had cut an inch deep into her thigh. I must have missed every blood vessel because it wasn't gushing, but it pooled heavily around the wound and rolled down the weapon toward my fingers. Penny winced in agony. Thank you, she whispered. Then she pulled it out with a sickening sound. I stared at the gaping hole. It wasn't bleeding anymore, but it still hurts like fuck. She huffed between gasping breaths. I'll be fine, though. I dropped the knife to the ground. She cocked her head at me. You can go now, James. You don't want any part of what comes next. I stood, zombie-like, and walked away as Penny gazed at her cut. I didn't even realize I was walking home until I got halfway there. It was awkward, confusing, scary, frustrating, and lacked any sense of closure. At the time, however, I thought that was unusual for a high school crush. That would have been the end of it, if it weren't for the fact that it was the beginning. James, my mom called the next morning as my sleepy brain justified my decision not to take a shower before school. I'll be right down, I grumbled while testing the greasiness of my hair. The police are here and they want to talk with you. Her tone wavered on the edge of true panic. I felt the shit freeze in my colon. Slowly, I walked down the stairs to find a pair of grim-looking officers speaking with my mother in the living room. Hello, James. We need to have a word. I tried to swallow, but my throat had gone dry. Do you know Brent Harwood? My jaw dropped. The second cop placed his hands on his hips and stepped closer. I'll take that as a yes. Which leads me to my next question. What can you tell me about the fact that he was stabbed in the thigh yesterday afternoon? He may never walk again, the first officer added. His football career was destroyed in just a few seconds. I shook my head, grasping for words. I'm sorry, but I've got no idea about any of this. I see fear worked its way into every orifice of my body. Is that so? The second cop asked, leaning closer still. If that's the case, how come the only words he's spoken since the attack were,